Last year, just as we were recovering from the second wave of the pandemic, Assam was facing another rather odd issue, a drought in Assam. Yes, if you are not from this region, you may be under the impression that droughts are almost unknown in the green zone of India. Yet the reality was that several districts of Assam were reeling with droughts, with no end in sight. And no, Assam was not the only region. Nagaland was facing pre-monsoon droughts. In 2018 and 2019, Manipur too faced drought-like situations. Yet, here we are in the middle of one of the wettest spells in Assam. 2022 feels like the monsoon has truly arrived, right? But has it? I am Megha Thakuria, and in today's episode of Decoded, we will try to explain if what we are witnessing across Northeast India right now is just the good old monsoon or if climate change needs to get its due credit here.
Monsoon for months.
Tripura village of Assam.
In the 75th Independence Day,
May is supposed to be hot, even in the northeast, and every few days the intense heat gets doused by rains and we return to the hot and humid days. So far, so good. Except that someone forgot to share the script with the weather gods. In May, rainfall in the erstwhile North Cachar Hills, southern Assam and other parts of Assam broke several records, with the Dima Hasao district bearing the brunt of the rains. We did a video on what happened in Dima Hasao, which you can watch here. Having barely recovered from that, and here we are, standing in front of you in smelly clothes because the city has not seen the sun at all this week. In Meghalaya, where you know it rains a lot, hint, Meghalaya. Rains have killed around a dozen people since April. Just this week, Cherrapunji, one of the wettest places on earth, recorded 2 of its 10 wettest days in its history. Supplies to Tripura, Mizoram and Barak Valley remained cut off due to landslides in the region, and for now, things are looking grim. And oh, schools will remain closed in Meghalaya until June 20th. China, Pakistan, maybe Congress. Here is the thing. How does one pinpoint what has caused the extraordinary rainfall? Simple, ask the experts. The Indian Meteorological Department's daily alert pinpoints, and we quote, the influence of strong southwesterly winds from the Bay of Bengal to northeast and adjoining East India in lower tropospheric levels as a factor for the heavy rainfall in this region. The troposphere is the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere and contains most of Earth's clouds and is the location where weather primarily occurs. The point here is rather simple. Climate change, despite what some nuts might say, is a reality, and India is at the heart of it. Repeated reports have pointed out that India, Pakistan and Bangladesh are going to face its wrath, and it is a now or never situation for India. At the same time, let us not blame climate change for what can be described simply as weather anomalies. It is raining during monsoons, after all. If we had been receiving this kind of rainfall during, say, February, then maybe one could have blamed climate change more clearly. In fact, to say that climate change is responsible for floods, landslides and every other calamity will only give a perfect excuse to a consistently corrupt administration that somehow cannot make all-weather roads across the region. Take Guwahati for example. Is climate change to be blamed for the deluge when people have built palaces in wetlands over water bodies and after cutting down hills and getting rid of forests? Is climate change to be blamed when several parts of Meghalaya have been ravaged by stone quarries and illegal mining? Climate change is a consistent process that is slowly but surely changing everything around us, from rising temperatures across the country to the catastrophic reduction in ice-capped mountains, especially in the Himalayas, from the slow death of biodiversity around us to more erratic weather. Climate change is going to hit us hard. Sure, the excess rains can be blamed on climate change, but it can also just be a regular event. Either way, we are hardly prepared for it. Earlier this year, a new UN report warned that climate change repercussions for India will be irreversible if India doesn't take drastic measures by 2030. The report notes that climate change is already impacting health, livelihood, and infrastructure in India's urban areas. Remember, we are witnessing temperatures above 45 degrees across many parts of India. To put it simply, India could face multiple climate change-induced disasters in the next 2 decades. Unless greenhouse gas emissions are drastically reduced by 2030, it will become impossible for Indian authorities to reverse an imminent climate catastrophe. So what are we doing to tackle them? We will ignore the 2014 statement of our Prime Minister who said that climate is not changing. We are changing. We will also ignore the fact that he compared climate change to old people feeling cold. In 2021, after months of pushing back, India updated its 2030 climate targets under the Paris Agreement. India is considering cutting down almost by half the amount of greenhouse gases produced for every dollar of economic activity by the end of the decade. India's updated nationally determined contributions or NDCs as commitments by countries under the Paris Agreement are referred to could include a commitment to reduce the emissions intensity of the economy by at least 46 to 48% from its 2005 levels. Building on its enhanced renewable energy target of 450 gigawatt, India could pledge to increase the share of non-fossil fuel sources in its energy generation capacity to at least 60%, with the possibility of raising it to 65% by 2030. But what does it mean for us and our daily lives? A lot. In a region where floods are an annual affair, erratic weather can only cause more damage. Climate change and its impact will also put the region's geopolitics under pressure. Extended droughts can wreak havoc in the hills, leading to large-scale migration. And if you are thinking we are reading too much into it, then allow us to inform you that climate refugees is a real term. And it is not even new. The term climate refugees has been used since 1985 when UN Environment Programme expert Assam El-Hinawi defined climate or environmental refugees as people who have been forced to leave their traditional habitat temporarily or permanently because of marked environmental disruption. According to reports, we could have 1.2 billion climate refugees by 2015. And let us not forget hundreds of thousands of people right here in Assam are displaced every year, some permanently due to floods and erosion. We are in a disaster-prone zone. We have always been, and climate change will not make it easier. Sure, some people will say a certain party under the leadership of a certain person will take care of all of this. Sure. The truth, however, is rather uncomfortable. The present rains and floods may not be due to climate change, but at this point, there is nothing around us that has not been impacted by climate change. The sooner we understand this, the better. But for now, let us continue to fight over who took more offense over religion.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to EastMojo. For any queries, put them down in the comments section below and press on the bell icon for notifications.